Patrick Klepek, man of the hour. That's it. Dropped.
There's a microphone in that phone, so it's the closest thing I've got.
Just couldn't leave Chicago. Couldn't leave for Chicago without first doing a little grandstanding here.
Should have brought in my scooping hat. Although I didn't know any of this was happening when I walked into the office.
So,
By the time I walked in, you guys were like, "Gee, this is happening. This is happening." I was like, "Didn't you see your phone?" I'm like, "What? No, my phone doesn't. This beta OS let me down. I didn't see nothing." So
thanks, Apple.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was
In
probably,
collusion.
What was it? It was probably 30 minutes after you got here or something this morning.
No, like as
That's
I
right.
walked
That's
in,
right.
I looked at my phone, and then told Brad, I was like, oh, shit's happening.
Yeah. We didn't know it was going to be today. You heard it was happening.
Yeah, I heard it was happening.
But then, like, a few minutes after that, you were like, it's happening today.
Yeah. So yeah, I had heard about this policy stuff this morning, and then we hear stuff all the time. Like, I hear all the stuff that I can't talk about or that we allude to on the podcast because it is not written down and has less of a paper trail. But this was something that was so big that I wanted to try and ferret it out. And because the studio is not set up yet, like, I have a little more spare time to dig this stuff.
Yeah.
So I spent the morning, like, trying to get, hearing it from one person or one source is not enough, especially when it's oftentimes, hey, I heard this in the wind. Then I go out and try and ferret it out
And this is such a huge story that...
Yeah, this is not something you just casually drop.
Yeah, I hear this rumor, maybe this is happening. Yeah.
So I spent the rest of the day nailing that down, trying to get a sense of what was happening from other sources, and eventually got to a point that I felt comfortable publishing it, and then spent like the next hour just feeling sick to my stomach at my desk, waiting to hear back. Like I knew I was right, or I was about to be boned by folks that I've
Multiple people
like
would have to collude to fuck.
Yeah, like sometimes the way sources work out, not the stuff that I do is like you'll get like a tip box, and then you try and follow up with that guy and verify who they are. Like, that's not how my stuff works. Like, my stuff is traditionally like people I've known for years and years and years and years.
You got primo shit.
Yeah, who like trust me with information, and a lot of times I don't publish any of it. It's sometimes that's how that works out, or something's big enough that I want to move forward on it. So I got to a point that I felt comfortable, and then my sources felt comfortable with the information going out. But yeah, it just spent like the first hour until everything got confirmed, which is like, I know I'm right, but I just sound like a crazy person until someone else says it. But anyway, so it is up.
The entire internet fighting back against you of, no, that can't be. No, that's too crazy. No.
Yeah. Well, that was the great part about there was like, you had all these folks that, other like writers and journalists being like, so, Klepek's saying this, but what? So it was a lot of like, he's saying this, but this can't be true. So it feels good to have that stuff pay off. But like, all that stuff aside.
The drama of this morning of the way that this story unfolded.
Yeah, that's
holy shit, this story unfolded.
Yeah, like Microsoft dropped all their DRM policies, basically.
Yeah.
Or at least they've reverted back to
kind of 360 level of, or PS4 level of stuff.
So our site went crashing down under the weight of this traffic, as did Xbox.com, it seemed.
Yeah, it seems to be working now. I think both our site and the FAQ that has an update from Don Matrick. Your feedback matters.
So this was linked to from their original like DRM policy page on Xbox.com.
Like there was a bit that said like, some of this stuff is incorrect. Please click here. And then that new page just said the service is unavailable. Which just the irony of that, given there's no correlation between their website being up and their Xbox Live infrastructure, but it's still funny. So the changes were.
So let's break down what we did this before when they put this up. Let's break down what they're actually saying about their policy now, and see how that lines up.
It's all an internet connection will no longer be required to play offline Xbox One games. After a one-time system setup with the new Xbox One, you can play any disc-based game without ever connecting online again. There is no 24-hour connection requirement, and you can take your Xbox One anywhere you want and play your games just like on Xbox 360, which
So I guess and then E was out there saying that they're still going to sell games digitally if you want to play without a disc and play off. You can play those offline as well.
Yeah. In addition to buying it from a retailer, you can also download games from Xbox Live on day of release. You just download your games, you're able to play them offline just like you do today.
So I mean, the crazy thing is that the way that the original DRM messaging came out, this sounded like there was engineering behind this, well beyond just like, okay, this is our policy now. It's like, okay, this system is being built.
The system is built around these concepts.
Like, Microsoft has to have been making, back-end server-side decisions predicated on...
This is like,
I'm sure it's
put aside how we feel.
Put
aside how we feel about the policies or how anyone feels about the policies. Like, that engineering team, like, they've spent an enormous amount of time building an infrastructure that appears to be just getting thrown out unless they bring some of that over in some way. I don't know. Like, this clearly feels like a decision made because we need to do this regardless of what the engineering cost is.
I mean, this has been bad for them for a while, but there's some people saying like, the Fallon fiasco, did that mention it? And I didn't watch Fallon, so I don't know what you said.
Fallon basically, like, they had Mark Cerny on.
Okay.
They're doing like Fallon does Game Week after E3.
Yep.
And they had Cerny on talking about the PS4, and Fallon said like, so this one can play used games because the Xbox One can't. And it's like, Fallon's a smart guy, like, he plays video games, and he was used as this barometer with the Wii U of, he thought that was a tablet add-on for the Wii. So it's like, if someone like Jimmy, when we were talking on the podcast about how are the wider audience of just like casually interested gamers, people that play games but aren't like tapped in enthusiasts like us, what information is getting out? And that seems like a confirmation that like some bad, like those policies are reverberating outward.
That is the impression getting out there. That is, mainstream. That's network television.
Jimmy Fallon audience is like, that wider audience.
Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, even if the audience doesn't necessarily have that opinion, they're being given that by Jimmy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. If that had anything to do with it, if it's pre-order numbers or something, if they got what statistics they got back.
But they came out of E3 kind of banged up. For as good as everything else went, like that should have been a phenomenal E3 for Microsoft. But I feel like any success
they cloud hanging over everything they had to say. The press conference, every single thing.
Yep.
It's crazy that it took them going through all of this stuff to finally get to this point.
But to me, it's even crazier that they're doing this. To me, like for all of the signs that
about face, they spent a whole week of prime time with mainstream outlets, folks like ourselves, but not us, talking about these policies, defending these policies, explaining these policies, and then the week after, I'm sure what must have happened. Like, this is completely based on speculation. Is that they got back, they had debrief meetings, like, how did E3 go?
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know if there was a tipping point or maybe it was a general feeling on how E3 went. Like, maybe it is pre-order numbers. Like, I have to imagine there was a financial motivation of, oh no. And maybe that's pre-order numbers, or maybe it's just today.
Or watching the narrative continue to get away from them in a way that is very hard to recover from. It's like
unless you make a drastic move.
Yeah. Up until
how do you
E3,
change the conversation?
Yeah. Up until E3, it was like, well, this stuff sucks, but we don't know enough about Sony, and I feel like we had both heard enough stuff about Sony kind of sticking to some of that stuff too that ended up not being the case. That I'm sure that they were just going to wait and see and hope that Sony would go along for the ride with them on this stuff. And then when Sony said like, fuck that, then it's, okay, we're the only ones out here. We are all the way out here on a limb with this shit. And they got the shit beat out of them for it. So, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's really fucking crazy.
Yeah. Like when I got the news this morning, I was like, come on.
Normally, yeah.
Like, what do you like the way it was phrased to me was like a complete 180. I was like, but what does that mean?
Right.
Like,
that's not really right.
Like they're gonna massage it and make it sound a little bit better, but like this is dropping every single like. Does this mean like the lending stuff is gone? Like the little bits of trying to add physical rights to digital transactions. Like, is that stuff gone?
Yeah, is that stuff all gone?
Like because we were just before I knew if I was going to be able to break this ahead of time, like we were discussing it, and I thought it's possible that Microsoft finds himself in a pretty good position if they adopt Sony's policies, but also say, look, we're preparing for the long term, which is digital only, and right now you don't have any rights except that you buy a license and you're stuck with that game.
Right.
Like, we are trying to establish rights for our customers to do something more with the goods they buy digitally. I'm not convinced right now, based on that, if they're even going to stick with that stuff, or they're just going to say,
Right. Yeah.
whoop, or they're tabling it for
a later
next
system
year.
update, or and that's weird timing on that. There was something that someone hacked out of Steam beta about game blending stuff, so it seems like they may be investigating stuff along those lines. So maybe that'll force everybody's hand in a year.
It seems
or
like
so.
maybe we're about to enter like a big conversation about that stuff.
Yeah.
And
that's an interesting one because I don't think the expectation has been there for digital purchases to be lendable or anything like that. Like that's that's Kindle stuff.
But if stuff like
not
that
game
comes
stuff.
about as a value add to buying digitally versus buying a disc,
Sure.
like if they just start offering that as a way to say, hey, you should maybe just get it straight from us, like make it appealing to do that.
And if they can be flexible, and I wonder if this ends up scuttling their price flexibility for downloadable purchases or something like that. If there's a lot of talk about that maybe being a thing, but I don't know. It's still a good thing. I think whatever still has to be figured out, and however it ends up. This seems like a good thing right now. And this is already the craziest fucking shit that has ever happened in video game consoles.
Totally.
Like
To see a
prior to the systems coming out, like all this shit already happening.
Like,
It's never been like this.
multi-billion-dollar corporation, publicly traded, like such public plans for this, and to unilaterally reverse everything.
Say
they
what you
said.
will about the did they or don't they on the when did they decide the final price of PS4 and all that stuff. No way Microsoft would be able to say like this has been part of this. No, this is like fuck.
Yeah.
Gotta do something. So yeah, it's
And this is great because this continues to put the pressure on Sony. They've been
they hit back in a way that I can't imagine Sony would have expected.
Yeah.
On this stuff, like
I don't think Sony felt like
never,
I don't think Sony felt like they had easy going after E3. I think they felt like, okay, we've got some good momentum out of this, but like this just means they've got to fight that much harder for the rest of this.
I really like Patrick's idea, keeping with his political analogy, that Microsoft timed this against that firmware fuck up on Sony's part yesterday. It was like right after they bricked a bunch of their own consoles. Let's get out here with this.
Yeah. Vinny, what do you think?
It's getting dirty.
Just blown, just mind blown.
No, this is the worst. What else is going on? What's Sega announced?
PSO 2 launch game.
Dreamcast 1 coming never.
Shit! No, it's great. Who said it? Dana? Everybody likes a good fight. Everybody wants to watch people fight. It's a good fight.
Yeah.
It happened since the beginning of time.
And it's just with this one thing, I mean, it depends on how the tone of the interviews and stuff like that go. Maybe to some extent, like
I've got by the time this goes up, I'll probably be in the middle of talking to Mark Whitten. I have 5 minutes with him. So
he's got a lot of people to talk to.
my guess. Usually when you get blocks like this, it's because they're setting them up with like 30 different outlets, and it's just get your 6 questions in, and then they move on to the next one.
I wonder how the tone of that stuff will end up being, because
Are they excited? Are they apologetic?
right?
Like,
Yeah.
is it like, you know what? You guys were right.
Like this,
or is it like
this stuff kind of wipes away a lot of the stuff Sony did. I mean, obviously Sony did a great job of like getting the brand out there and saying that they care. But now, like you said, they definitely have to keep fighting probably a little harder than they would have originally thought.
Absolutely.
But the PS4 is still $100 cheaper.
Yeah.
2 controllers in a PS4 and a copy of Super Mario World.
like a cartridge?
But one of the controllers just plugs into a TV and it plays a bootleg version of Super Mario World directly.
That's console launch. Major Nelson just posted that Microsoft Store and Amazon have new allotments of day 1 editions of the Xbox One
Bam!
ready for reservation. So,
Well, just yesterday was the story of GameStop running out of their launch allocations for Xbox Ones.
Yeah.
With them also saying that they had been allotted way less Xbox Ones than PS4s.
Well, Xbox 180 is trending on Twitter.
Yep.
What are you doing over there?
This is my impression of the internet.
Playing the jaw harp.
I think it's fantastic news. It's really fun.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have like, I don't want to say like Schadenfreude for the dudes who are over
Oh,
at Microsoft.
no.
But like, this is super interesting.
Yeah.
As a consumer, this is a very.
I mean, I'm not. I don't think anyone here is taking like personal satisfaction at look at these hot shots, big shots having to scramble for the stuff. It's like no, they responded and they're keeping this fight fucking interesting.
Yeah. At the same time, watching this fight play out might be more interesting than anything I saw at E3. It's not to say that anything or that everything at E3 is bad.
E3 was nuts in a way that was completely unexpected. And,
Yeah.
and really exciting. And
It's like E3 didn't stop.
yeah, and this is keeping that going.
You know what? It gets the conversation closer to talking about the games. Like, I mean, all this stuff I think is really interesting. This conversation about digital rights and physical rights, but
Sure.
ostensibly the reason for buying all this stuff is to play more games, and so
No, I'm turning it on to see what happens when I log into the internet. What does it say? How much do I have to pay to watch Netflix?
And Microsoft, their whole E3 was clouded by this bullshit when they did have some really interesting games.
Yeah,
I think Sony had, for what I like to play, Sony had more of the games I want to play, but Microsoft had a great lineup that, or at least
If you had
elements of a great
looked-
lineup that was really marred by all of this.
If you had looked at the Xbox One lineup, first and third party stuff, and it didn't have that DRM cloud hanging over it, like Jeff said, like that would have been a phenomenal E3 for them.
Yeah.
They showed
it's just a lot of
good games
for like the start of a generation, like a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah.
There were 2 military shooters at E3, Call of Duty and Battlefield. Like everybody else has moved on and they're making their own kinds of games now, largely.
Sure. Yeah.
Not a lot of the also-rans that you were seeing the last few years.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time.
Good job.
Good job, video games.
I just pre-ordered an Xbox One.
You were waiting for it.
I had my PS4 pre-ordered.
Yep.
But you said,
And now you're getting
I mean,
both.
but we had this conversation where, was it yesterday or? But it was about like, well, I just put them out with my pre-orders because whatever, I'm going to get both of them. And Vinny was like, I don't want them to get my pre-order number.
I want to show them that I think this is a good move. I think it's a good move. Yeah. Speaking with 500 of my dollars.
Speaking with 500 fake dollars that you can cancel up until.
But no, I get the spirit of it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Now cancel again.
Yeah.
Now cancel again.
All right. Well,
Let Major Nelson know on Twitter every time.
I think it's safe to say that this is like the new Coke moment for video games, of huge public push and then almost immediate.
But it's before the thing's even out. Like that's like it is and it isn't. You
Yeah.
know what other weird shit? If everything is on the table.
That's true. Yeah, we're not even there
What
yet.
could change between here and November? You got to rethink all that stuff because I don't even know anymore.
Yeah.
What they're willing to do. It's exciting.
Everything.
It is a weird like power of the people moment where outrage is actually making changes before those things happen.
That's a dangerous precedent.
That's right. Mob rule. The internet's straight feeling itself. Watch out.
Vigilante justice.
And Microsoft,
You're
your
gonna-
audio's had this thing.
Internet's going to get run over by a car, and it was going to that car just drove off. We never found out who was driving it. You're going to find the internet next to Jimmy Hoffa.
No one ever found Jimmy Hoffa, Jeff.
Find him. They're looking for him.
Exactly.
Did they find him? Wait,
They did not find him.
that was in the news yesterday.
Yeah, they did not find him.
Okay.
They were looking.
All right.
More boxes?
Can I take this box?
Sure.
I don't know. Can you?
This better be a good Ford.
All right. Well, Patrick, I guess we'll let you go and prep for your Microsoft phone call. Can't wait to hear what comes out of that.
Yeah, the most curious, I think, honestly, I don't think we'll get any real clarity from a guy like Mark Whitten about how did this come about sort of stuff, because that's stuff so easy to spin. I want to know how this impacts, all the other policies.
Sure.
That's
And what
I'm
this means
most
from an
curious about.
engineering perspective for the system.
They said you need to keep the disc in, right?
Yep.
Disc games.
Yep.
Fucking weird.
It's not the Wednesday I expected.
No. No, I thought this was going to be a relatively low-key Wednesday. Beep, 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 indeed.
Speaking of that, I got an email today, The second, like, we'd love to be on the interview dump truck, except that they called it the interview dumpster. Like, the PR person was like, we would love to be on the Giant Bomb interview dumpster.
Great. Good communication.
Sure.
I'm looking to crawl into the Giant Bomb interview
See
dumpster.
what you can find.
Oh God, what did we find in the interview
We should
dumpster?
make a separate RSS feed called Interview
Deep
Dumpster.
dive into the interview.
That's just us interviewing each other. Well,
So
look-
so I should post this on there then?
yeah, I was gonna say good luck posting this video. The site still doesn't work. So.
All right. Well,
By the time you post this video, everything will have changed again.
It could be.
Sony's adding DRM.
Like, well, check this shit out.
Wait a second.
You need 2 discs to play a game.
well, we'll see what happens. Patrick, again, good fucking work on breaking this story.
Getting it out there to the people.
Good way to again end your last week here in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Chicago better look out. They got a madman on their hands.
Watch out, Dave Lang. What you got to hide?